Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, a Niners roster projection after OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Going to take a look at who's going to crack the 53-man roster, which players may be on the bubble, and which players might have to go elsewhere to continue their NFL careers, because we're talking about a Niners team that heading into 2023 once again has a very deep roster. First, though, do want your feedback here. If you think the Niners have an elite roster, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you don't think they have an elite team going into this upcoming season, with training camp coming up at the end of July, about a month and a half away, I want you to comment why. So without further ado, let's begin on the offensive side of the football. As of right now, I don't think that Trey Lance gets traded. I think the Niners will keep him just because they're unsure about Brock Purdy's injury. But of course, Purdy is still going to be on that 53-man roster. They're not going to put him on PUP so that he misses a few games. Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, my three quarterbacks for the opening 53. And if you remember last year, San Francisco kept Brock Purdy on the roster for opening day, knowing that with what he showed in the preseason, the ability that he displayed, and the fact that that quarterback position is obviously so important, he would have gotten snatched up by another team. He wouldn't have cleared waivers. He couldn't have came back on the practice squad. That's why I said in my final Niners roster projection last year, the receipts are certainly there. The Niners have to and will hold on to Purdy because he simply played too well in the preseason to risk allowing him to go to another team. Running backs and fullback here. This is going to be a very good training camp battle for who backs up Christian McCaffrey. Is Elijah Mitchell going to be able to stay healthy? If not, I think Jordan Mason is going to be RB2. If not, Elijah Mitchell. Hopefully he can stay upright and healthy and intact. He's one of the better number 2 running backs in the NFL. Ty Davis-Price, I think, is on that roster bubble. He could be fighting for a roster position. And look, the Niners drafted him in the 3rd round 2 years ago. They did the same thing with Trey Sermon, and they ended up letting him go as well. And then Kyle Juszczyk, a shoo-in to make this team as the best fullback in the NFL. When you think about this Niners running back competition for who is going to back up Christian McCaffrey, there are 2 names really that I think are the most viable. Elijah Mitchell, he needs to stay healthy, and Jordan Mason. He's coming, and you have to remember the name. He's come into camp in better shape, at least for minicamp. He was catching the football out of the backfield. He was really making the most of his opportunities last year as a backup to Christian McCaffrey, and I believe he has a lot of ability. And if Eli is hurt, Jordan Mason, RB2, book it right now. Now, we do all types of content here on the show: news, analysis, live shows, watch parties, rumors, trade rumors, free agency coverage, NFL draft coverage. Look, why would you go anywhere else for your Niners content? Hit that sub button right now to join the faithful family here at Chat Sports of more than 81,000 subscribers. Wide receivers now. Brandon Aiyuk, he is this team's number 1 wideout. I don't think there's any questions asked there. No debate with how Aiyuk has progressed and the array of skills that he has. He's the best wide receiver on this team. Deebo Samuel not far behind him. He's one of the better all-around weapons in the National Football League. Jauan Jennings continues to be a very good money-down wide receiver and a guy who on 3rd down always seems to be in the right place at the right time. Very dependable as well. Ray McCloud, excellent special teamer who can be utilized in this offense as a gadget guy. Danny Gray, pressures on him. More thoughts on him in a moment. And this might be a surprise to some. It's not a surprise to me because I liked the pick at the time. Ronnie Bell, I think, is going to make this 53-man roster, and I like his future on this team as a Jauan Jennings replacement after Jennings, in my opinion, inevitably leaves after 2023 to cash in on a larger deal in free agency. I'll tell you this about Danny Gray. Danny Gray, I know that you were a 3rd-round pick in 2022. You have elite vertical speed. You certainly have a lot of ability. You have to pick it up. If you continue to drop footballs, you're not going to get playing time. You're not going to be considered and deemed a dependable player by this coaching staff, and you're not going to get many reps if you can't do the little things right. The explosive plays are one thing, but you have to be more consistent in this league. You have to show that throughout training camp. And then don't sleep on Ronnie Bell. He is so good at contested catches, which is so underrated in the NFL. Tight ends, a little bit of a debate here, and I went back and forth, and this could come as a little bit of a surprise, right? George Kittle, of course he makes the team, but the two backups to George Kittle in Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner do not make the team. I'm going with the two rookies instead in Brayden Willis and Cameron Latu. Cameron Latu has much more ability than those two aforementioned backups. I think Brayden Willis has a lot more potential than those two as well. Brayden Willis led all tight ends in this draft class at picking up yards after contact, and Latu has been wowing some people with his underrated speed. He ran a 4.7 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process, but looks a lot quicker than that, and the dude physically is massive. To offensive line to round out the offensive side of the football. Some good competitions here as well. The starters from left to right, it'll be Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, and Colton McKivitz. After that, Matt Pryor is a guy who can kind of play multiple positions along that line. And I think it's important to have a guy like that. Jon Feliciano is a high-level backup who can play at center or right guard. I think Jason Poe, after being on the practice squad last year, actually cracks the 53 with the improvements that he made. He was the practice squad player of the year a year ago. And then Nick Zakelj is a guy who I think is going to be a backup guard for this team, who the Niners drafted last year in 2022. So that's a total of 9 offensive linemen who cracked the squad. Jalen Moore has been disappointing. He is on the outside looking in. So we're about to shift gears to the defensive side of the rock, but what is the better unit for the 49ers here in 2023? Is it offense type O? Is it defense type D? Another good position group here on this team is defensive line. Once again, your starters on that front four, Nick Bosa, Arik Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and Drake Jackson as of right now. I think Clelin Ferrell is going to push Drake Jackson for some first-team reps. After that, Kerry Hyder Jr., very good backup defensive lineman. Javon Kinlaw is iffy for me. If a team is desperate for a defensive tackle via the trade market and the Niners like a late-round pick in exchange for him, they could decide to deal him away. Kevin Givens has become criminally underrated over the last couple of years. He's a solid player. Kalia Davis, we didn't see at all as a rookie last year. He was recovering from that torn ACL that he suffered at UCF, but he's a really good athlete if he can stay healthy. And then the last defensive lineman to make the team here is Robert Beal Jr. as a guy who can come in on some obvious throwing downs on third down and just pin his ears back, use that speed coming off the edge as well as that bend, that twitchy quickness to get after the opposing quarterback. Got to look out for T.Y. McGill to make this team as well. Solid backup who is kind of a Chris Kosaric developmental project. The Niners snatched him up after he was let go by Minnesota. And then a player who is impressing a lot of people is Spencer Waege out of North Dakota State. A lot of people believe that he could make the 53-man roster, and if he's too good in this preseason, Niners might have to have him occupy a roster spot on this team on opening day. Now let's go to the linebacking position. You lost Azeez Al-Shaair, but you still have one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, as good of a 1-2 punch as you can find. The big question, who's going to replace Azeez Al-Shaair? I think it's going to be Marcelino McCrary-Ball, just because Demetrius Flanagan-Folds and Oren Burks, they're better slotted as special teams players and not linebackers like Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I do believe that he has some potential and he could surprise a lot of people. To the practice squad, 2 of the draftees late in this draft, Jalen Graham as well as D. Winders. TCU Purdue products, they impressed last year, and I think that they're just not ready for the pro game just yet, especially on a defense that is arguably going to be the best once again in the NFL. If you can have them on that practice squad, that's a big win right there. Last position group before we get to our specialists, it's a secondary. Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore. Those are your top 2 cornerbacks here. Talanoa Hufanga, Deshaun Gibson. They will be your starting safeties if, and this is a big if Gibson can hold off Jair Brown, who is coming. He's surging, and I love the rookie. Samuel Womack, Isaiah Oliver, good slot nickel corners who are shoo-ins to make this team. George Odom, very good special teamer, one of the best in the NFL, in fact. And then the rookie 5th-round pick out of South Alabama, who did not participate in mandatory minicamp for undisclosed reasons, but was good in OTAs, Darrell Luter Jr. That's 9 players in the secondary who make this 53. And is there a surprising name not on this list who you're like, whoa, what happened to Ambry Thomas? I don't think Ambry Thomas makes the squad. He displayed some ability as a rookie, played very good down the stretch. Last year, barely played at all. I think he's suffering from a lack of confidence. Maybe the Niners try to deal him for late-round compensation, or they let him seek an opportunity elsewhere for a fresh start. Specialists are people too, ladies and gentlemen. And keep in mind that I'm not including returners in here. That's why I had Ray McCloud making the team at that wide receiver spot. Tabor Pepper, a very good long snapper. Mitch Wishnowsky, your punter. And the rookie, 3rd-round pick kicker, Jake Moody, easily beats out Zane Gonzalez. So that is my first 49ers roster projection for this 2023 team. Be honest with me, grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. Sound off with what you think down in the comment section. And as always, thanks for watching the show.